Hello, everyone. Welcome to Connecting with Ideas. So philosophy. Why are we studying philosophy? Well, let me give you some stuff about philosophy. What is it? It comes from, I'm going to do the etymology. The Greek. Philos, should I write it in Greek? Wouldn't that be cute? Philos. Philos means love. And sophos. My handwriting is so bad you can't tell I'm writing in Greek, can you? You're thinking, it's just Gary's scrawl. Sophos. Sophos is wisdom. And so you can think of philosophy. I shouldn't have written, I should have written Sophia, right? Wouldn't that have been better? Sophia. Sophos is the adjective, Sophia. If you know a lady named Sophia, her name means wisdom, Sophia. So it's the love of wisdom. Philosophy is the love of wisdom. And of course, that's not what it is nowadays. It's all these words we have. They get more restricted meanings. They get wider meanings. It depends. And philosophy is the love of wisdom. Here's my apology, little apology here. Really going to do philosophy. What I'm going to do is some Western philosophy. I'm not going to talk about the fabulous Indian philosophy. If I were asked to, I could probably teach a course. I could probably do a very, very good job on it. Indian philosophy is deep and rich. It's amazing. They asked all the right questions, even if you don't agree with their answers. There are millennia, not just centuries, but millennia, thousands and thousands of years, and all kinds of writing. Fascinating stuff. And we don't have time for it. We're not doing it. I'm not doing any of the Muslim philosophy. There's some fabulous Muslim philosophers. We will mention them next week or the week after when we do medieval and modern philosophy, because they are important to us. I'm not doing any of the Chinese or Japanese. And again, those are big, big schools of philosophy. I'm just giving you a little tiny taste. We have, by the way, some fabulous philosophy professors at CWI. And so if you're looking for one of those distribution requirements, right, the Gen Ed stuff, you might consider philosophy as one of your humanities classes. So there's my little apology. And I feel justified. I feel bad that I'm being, wait, this is European white males and they're all dead, right? You've heard this. What are you studying? Dead white people. Men, not women. There just weren't any, and I apologize for that. My justification is, well, we live in Boise, Idaho. We're part of Western civilization. The United States has a long tradition of coming from this sort of European thing. And it does go back to the ancient Greeks. And so we will start with the ancient Greeks and we'll move forward. But apologies that I'm skipping everybody else, because they are important. There have been, as I say, fabulous philosophers who weren't European, and there have been fabulous philosophers who weren't male. And in fact, there are some fabulous philosophers who are still alive. So they're not all dead white males. But there you go. What I want to do today, instead of talking about personalities and specific ideas, is I want to give you the big background. So these are the branches of philosophy. And different people count this different ways. There are entire schools of philosophy that I kind of won't mention. And so, for example, there's philosophy of mind, which is important nowadays because people are interested in artificial intelligence. Can machines think? Right? Can you ever have a conscious machine? And in a certain sense, but I don't think the greatest sense, that's a technical question. It's a technological question. I don't know. Do you have enough RAM? What programming language are you using? And, but that doesn't answer the question. It's really a philosophical question. Can machines think? And there are other branches of philosophy. You can think of a philosophy of education. You can think of philosophy of religion, which we will just barely touch on, but it's its whole school. There's philosophy of science, which again we will touch on, but you can get a PhD in philosophy of science, and that's really all you do and all you talk about and all you write about. So we're giving the broadest picture, but we're, again, skipping a lot. And as I say, if you're interested, there are some really good philosophy classes here at CWI. You should sign up for one. So 5 branches of philosophy. Philosophy comes from the ancient Greeks, and so all of these 5 branches have Greek names. So metaphysics, sometimes this is called ontology. It's not only ontology. And you're thinking to yourself, well, that's fine, you say it includes it, but I don't even know what that is. Ontology comes from the Greek word ontos, which comes from their verb to be. It's the study of being. You know, what does it mean to be? And what I want to do with each of these 5 branches is tell you some questions that it answers. And so some of the questions would be, what is there? Is there anything out there? And you say, well, yeah, there's a whole universe. Or is there? You know, maybe you're a brain in a vat, right? Maybe you're in the Matrix. Yeah, we have movies now. If the ancient Greeks were around today, they would point to all these movies and say, see, it's like that. What is there? In other words, what is reality? What is being? What does it mean to be? What does it mean to exist? What is real? And to be more specific, you might ask about the origin. What's the origin of real objects? Where do they come from? Why is there stuff there? You might want to be specific about yourself. Who am I? What's the nature of me? You know, metaphysics, the nature of reality. Well, what's the nature of me? What am I? Do I have a soul? Some people believe we have eternal souls. Some of the ancient Greek philosophers believe we have eternal souls. Some people think, no, you're just you. You're a mixture of matter and atoms, and when you die, you know. What's the nature of the soul? If I do have a soul, is it a material thing or is it a non-material thing, right? And that's it. What is there? Is there, in fact, another reality? And maybe you think of this question as, oh, like parallel dimensions, you know, the Marvel universe. But it also can be, well, is there a heaven, right? A heaven, that would be a different reality. And who's in heaven? Is there a God? That ties in nice with the idea of the origin of things. Is there something at the beginning who created everything? Some people say yes, and some people say no. What's the relationship between mind and matter? By the way, metaphysics, I said these were Greek names of these things. Meta means after, and physics means nature. What happened was, there's a Greek philosopher named Aristotle. You've probably heard of him, and if not, that's okay. You'll hear about him next week or the week after when we talk about some of these people and their ideas. Aristotle was very, very gifted as a philosopher. He was very, very gifted as a thinker. And he connected ideas. I love Aristotle because, hey, the class is connecting with ideas. And Aristotle wrote about everything. He was a scientist. When we talk about him, I'll list some of the books he wrote and some of the topics he wrote about. And you'll think, man, the guy wrote about everything. He kind of did. And so much of what we say, so much of what we take for granted, so much of what you learned in 8th grade English class, yeah, it came out of Aristotle's books. Anyway, one of the things he wrote about was science. He had a book called Physics, and it was about the nature of things, rocks and water, and anyway, physics. It was science. It was a science book. And in the Middle Ages, well, not even the Middle Ages, earlier, when they had a shelf full of Aristotle's books, and he wrote lots and lots of books, so you could have a shelf of his books. There was a traditional order that you would put them in. And the book that came after the book on physics, because you want to start with the technical, with the detailed, and then go to the general, the more abstract. The book that came after physics was a book on these questions. And since it came after physics, it got the nickname of metaphysics. Meta means after. It's the book after physics. You know, after you study physics, well, then you can study deeper stuff. Okay, so there's metaphysics. And the next one, here's another Greek word you've never seen before. Epistemology. Epistemology it comes from episteme, which is a Greek word meaning knowledge, and ology. Ology always means, the study of. It's the study of knowledge. And it answers questions like, how do we know? I mean, Think of all the things you know, and then ask yourself, well, how do you know them? And you say, well, because I read it in a book. Well, yeah, but how do you know? I mean, how do you know that book is right? Well, because it came from a trustworthy source. Well, how do you know it's a trustworthy source? Well, because the person wrote. Yeah. What can we know? It gets deeper than I'm implying. There are limits to our knowledge. Are there things we can't know? What's the nature of knowledge? What is knowledge? How do we acquire knowledge? Is there such a thing as truth? I'm going to put truth with a capital T, truth. And you say, well, 2 + 2 is 4. Well, that's true. Well, how do you know? Ethics, third branch. And this answers questions like, what should I do? And this can be pretty general. It can be kind of specific. The Greeks thought that knowing what happiness was, what does it mean to be happy? They considered that a question answered by ethics. What should I do? What is happiness? What is the good life? And again, I'll capitalize that, so it's like this abstract idea. What is the good life? In fact, is there such a thing as right and wrong? What was it in Hamlet? Isn't it in Hamlet? Shakespeare said, there's nothing either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. Right? There isn't really a right and a wrong. It's just your opinion of stuff. It's how you feel about it. That's a philosophical position. And you could defend it or you could argue against it, right? Politics. So I feel bad, especially today, right? It's election day and you've seen how this election has been going. And you look at modern politicians and you think, wait a minute, I thought that philosophy was a love of knowledge, and you're telling me these jokers, and I don't care which side you're on, they're jokers. These jokers have a love of knowledge and a love of truth and a love of what's right and a love of beauty. We're going to get to that next. They're scoundrels, they're rascals, they're rogues, all of them, every single one. Well, except for my candidate, no, they're all, seriously, they are. And so it feels funny to put politics as a branch of philosophy, but it is a branch of philosophy, and I can't make excuses for the modern politicians. The number one question they have in politics is, what should I do? And you think, we just had what should I do? Yeah, but Aristotle, in his book on politics, the first sentence is, man is a social animal, right? So what should I do in a social setting? Because I don't live, if you live on a desert island, you're a castaway. If you're not Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks. If you're Tom Hanks and your only friend is a coconut or a basketball, I can't remember how the movie was. Anyway, he's on that island. And if you're all by yourself, then you don't need politics as a branch of philosophy because there's no one else. There is no social setting. There's just you. What should I do in a social setting? What's the best form of government? And if you think of all the different kinds of government, well, we'll get to it we'll get to it when we get to it. Who should govern, right? Is there someone that should be in charge? Well, yeah, king, because, God appointed, it's the divine right of kings. Might makes right. No, whoever's most powerful should be. No. What we need is good people to, and you realize you can argue about this in a very general sense. So politics is a branch of philosophy. The fifth one that we will do, and these are kind of the 5 traditional. And as I say, there are all these other schools of philosophy that have different branches. There's a philosophy of language, and it's kind of under epistemology, right? Philosophy of science, kind of under epistemology. Philosophy of mind, it kind of straddles metaphysics and epistemology. So there are other things that have become more specialized. But these are the 5 traditional ones. Aesthetics, what is beautiful? What is beauty? So one person likes Bach, and one person likes Childish Gambino. Well, they're both music, and they're, can you argue that one's better? Oh, I don't know, can you? That would be part of aesthetics. And maybe just in general, is there such a thing as beauty? What is it in a very abstract sense? And you can imagine how aesthetics can go and go and go. There's an entire, philosophy of art is a thing. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for participating. Thank you for working hard and staying healthy. We will see you next week.